Who wants to live forever? Hi guys, my name's Bob Grinier and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. And welcome to O-Day Wormhole. This 9th of March 2023. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So, welcome. I've got the mic in a different position. It means I can't see the screen down here, but anyway, it is what it is. So thank you for joining me. We are going to be looking at a sample that was produced by Henk Jurrien. We saw all these different features, and I said to Henk, can we get some different chance of a lot of different resonances, have something at a bit of an angle? And he came up with this very nice experiment, and I think you'll agree that this goes very far, if not all of the way, to proving the hypothesis of the Great Pyramid of Giza. In fact, I think you'll be unbelievably amazed at how this does that job. And I think you'll also agree that with this evidence, it would not need someone to do the maths. They would just make it. And so I'm very excited about this. I could never have imagined, I mean, to cut the long story short, I started looking at this yesterday morning in detail with the alpha and a very nice lens here, which allows me to look in really super duper close. It's a 5x macro, and it allows me to go and take beautiful images. And it took about, I guess, 4 or 5 hours to find out what nature had done and which way it had oriented things. I got it wrong the first time, and when I finally got it into position, I just thought this just cannot be real. It just cannot be real. So the net result is that anyone who is capable of spending about $500 to $1,000 will be able to make something that will prove that the pyramids work in this way, I believe. We are at a point of this being just a science, and it always was a science. It's the science of the way the universe, I believe, works. I could be wrong. I've been wrong in the past. I expect to be wrong again. But either the universe is playing one almighty trick right now, or this is actually happening. So thank you. Maybe I should wait till it gets to 33. Right. Just had crumpet, said DIY Projects. Fantastic. Hi, Terranart. Hi, Corky Goss. Hi, the Bippo5. Hi, Paul O'Neill. Hi, Cosmic Dave and Martin Kemp. Hi, Thump Hunt D2 105K. Hi, Artifact. Hi, Tucker Point Dexter. Hi, Rob. So thank you guys for joining me. Hi, Harry. And it's a real pleasure to share this with you today. Right, so if my camera over here doesn't die, I've got a live camera, so we're going to have a look at this live. In fact, you're going to see this basically as I see it for the first time. But before we get there, I want to talk about a chap called Wheeler who came up with Gions, and he also came up with the concepts of the black hole and the wormhole. That was back in the 1950s. The second time that I've seen a major reference to the concept of a wormhole in this field was with one Dr. Alexander, not Alexander Parkham, was with Dr. Takeaki Matsumoto here, who I will be having the pleasure of a week with in about a period of time. And this is my number one question. How did he come up with the fact that it does this? So he's got this conceptual view of electronuclear regeneration. Conceptual view of electronuclear regeneration. So he has this kind of like, looks like a bit like a spinning vortex thing. And he actually calls this explosion of a black hole, and maybe he doesn't mean explosion of a black hole, he actually means an exploded diagram of a black hole. I don't know. I need to check this with him. But he says that around this thing, you get a generation of a carbon film. Well, we know we've seen carbon films. And then there is a point in the center here where you have this electronuclear collapse. And from that, you get this wormhole that comes out, and at some point it starts to break up, and it produces a vortex, and it comes out of the other side, and it produces from the white hole an eruption. On the outside, you get sort of hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, lighter elements on the outside, and you get a generation of a carbon tube, and the generation of titanium and iron and stuff. So the things that I can definitely agree with, I believe, and I think hopefully you will see where I'm coming from today, is that there is a point of electronuclear collapse. That happens. Now, are we potentially creating etheric matter, and that is what goes into the wormhole, or is it actual matter? I think the evidence today will show that actual matter goes into the wormhole. There is a wormhole, and I think the evidence we'll share tonight is fairly conclusive, although I'd like to get the sample on a large format SEM table to verify that. And certainly these elements are regenerated, electronuclear regeneration. However, some material does seem to be shifted intact. So maybe it's the level of compression or whatever. I don't know. There's a lot to be thought about as we move forward. So hopefully I can switch screens here and you will be able to see what I see. You can see what I see. Do you see what I see? Right, okay, here. And this is the sample, and I've got it not under a microscope, under a camera. And the thing that I'm going to be referring to today is this area over here. No, there, if I can point at it. That lump there, and this hole here. But there's the things that I think you need to pay attention to here. If I move the microphone a little bit. And that is that, I don't know if you can see, it's going to be a bit hard maybe. This sample actually, and I'm going to talk about this and what this might imply. This sample around this bent area, this hole here, around that hole there, is actually bent. Now, as I turn this over, you'll see that the edge is not affected largely. So this edge here, along this edge here, down here, which was touching the iron, that is basically not melted. It's pretty intact. But a short way in from the edge, you can see that there's heavy, heavy disruption. Now, we've seen this before. So it's like, it's basically nothing, nothing, nothing. And then right on that edge there, it goes to 100%, a few microns in. Okay? I don't believe this is melting in the ordinary way. If it is, it's within the coherent matter structure. But I don't know if it's obvious to you, but because it's out of focus and stuff, and this is in focus over here, this is actually bent. So around the center line of this structure on the other side, the entire piece of metal started to bend. And I think that speaks to the way that this can fractally go to the next generation. So if our pyramid was made of brass, it would end up folding it on itself, and it would end up synthesizing maybe another side, and the other side would then grow, and this might be how the structure does quantization. So it's just lucky that we're not using spin material predominantly in the construction of our pyramid. Okay, so that's that, and we'll have a lot. I'm just going to do this quickly, and so we can have a look at this in much more detail. But you can see the two sides, and like I say, I had not looked at this until yesterday. So for me, this is a little bit of magic, really, because, nature's telling you exactly what it's doing. On one side, you've got your two zones, and on the other side, if I can point to it, you've got there and there. You've got your two halves of your N-2 Tor. Then you've got an area down here where it's doing the funky business. And the overall shape, it would just be, it's utterly breathtaking how this is. And maybe some of you have already clocked what I'm going to tell you a little bit later, which will be a boom moment. For those that like a boom moment, it will be the mother of all booms. But here is the iron plate on which this was based. So, there. Okay, let's get that into focus. All right. Okay. So, this is the iron plate, and you can see where, and you'll see this line up. You can see where there's one side here of the N-2 Tor, and then the other side here of the N-2 Tor. I didn't realize this. I knew it was special when Henk just showed it to me on camera. He didn't clock the hole that wasn't going through and then was going through on the top side, which I'll show you again now when he was demonstrating it to me. But I did, and I thought that basically I think is the key to this whole thing. And when I get round to it, I think it'll reveal that to be the case. So you can definitely see there's a hole there. And you can definitely see there's a lump under the mouse pointer there. Okay, all right. It's auto-adjusting the contrast here at the moment, so it's making it a bit dark. But anyway, we've got some beautiful images, beautiful images to share here. So hi Benzen, hi Paul O'Neill, great to have you. Hi Simeon Hain. Okay, so I'm gonna just pull up some of these images, so bear with me. And I've got the microphone right in my face, so I can't actually see what I'm doing. So let me move that out of the way. And I'll bring up Photoshop. So if you want to go and look at remoteview.icu for the blog for this pyramid, the last one that I made, The Dawn of an Old Age, New Dawn of an Old Age, you will be able to see that I've put on there. In fact, I'll go there right now because I think it's something that's very important to say at this point. So let's do that. And we want something over here. We'll take that. Okay. So O'Day, New Dawn of an Old Age. And the point I want to, which I couldn't find the paper in the presentation, and it is this one here, NASA G. Abdi El Ghafour, 2012 et al. And it was from called Mineralogical and Radioactive Properties of Some Egyptian Granitoid Rocks and Their Suitability for Ornamental Stones. Okay, well, here we have the table of ones, and most of these come from down the sort of Hergöder side of the waterway there. And if you look here, it's saying that the average worldwide concentration of 232 thorium and 238 uranium are about 40 becquerels per kilogram, according to this report in 1999. And here, this sample here, which is has reasonably easy access to the Nile, it has, in some cases, over 4, but on average, 2.5 times the average concentration of granite globally. So this, therefore, is a high source of ionizing radiation. And I actually go and show in here that for both uranium-238, there are many, many isotopes that produce very, very high levels of mega electron volts. So I think we got 51 MeV here. We got, I think the lowest is 4.2 MeV. So there is a large number of alpha, beta emissions that can come out of here. And of course, alpha is a boson, so that can go in as an ion into the reaction as well. And here on thorium, you've got less, but still quite a lot. And you've still got several that are sort of here. This alpha here is 8.9 MeV, and the beta minus here is nearly 5 MeV. So, but given the fact that we only need 5 electron volts with hydrogen to properly charge separate it into the electrons, the protons, and the etheric matter in the form of relic neutrino condensates, according to Corollas and Shishkin et al. There is more than enough to get this working. It's not the same as when we are working with this reactor, and we have to use a electrical discharge to do it. This here is doing it with electrical discharge, whereas and we're typically using 700 volts peak and then a bias of a couple of hundred volts. And when you're looking at that's still more than 5 electron volts, of course. But with the case of the granite, you're getting particles that are coming out at high enough energy to properly dissociate massive amounts of hydrogen in the chamber. Now, I want to point something else out here at this point. We produced this structure at a minute scale in atmospheric pressure using ionized HHO in the form of a Mars gas. So what do I mean by that? I mean that this structure here is the same structure, in my view, that is powering the pyramids, except this is a few microns across, maybe tens, hundreds of microns. I can go and have a look in a little while. And so this works pretty much on every scale. And we'll come, if you remind me, at the end of the session here to talk about applications and implications. But essentially, this is the same thing, and it's occurring at atmospheric pressure. The same thing was happening at atmospheric pressure with the 10 yen coin, and that produced exactly the same structure. So it is not something you have to do in a vacuum. However, you're going to have to work harder to get an ionized state in a pressure environment compared to a Vega experiment where it's a low pressure environment. And therefore, the whole plasma burning in the oxyhydrogen jet is a little bit more intense, and that overcomes that. But we know that this works, ball lightning works in the natural environment. It is a natural phenomenon. So this can occur at any temperature, and it can occur at atmospheric pressure, and less than atmospheric pressure, and quite likely quite a lot more than atmospheric pressure. It's the same structure, but you just need the right conditions at the right level of intensity, and once it gets going, it'll do what it wants to do. Okay, so I think we can safely say this will work in a range of environments, and the sample was arranged like here, as I showed in my Russian presentation. If I rotate it up, you see it there. And then if I go over here, you see the raised pimple, but we've got much better imagery to show you today. And you can see how on this line here, where this one is, this is bent and curled up. Okay? This is straight, but this is bent and curled up. And I think you'll understand why when we overlay our sacred geometry structure. So I move this over, and you see the overall structure, and what I call the breaker and the maker. And here is a different look at it. And I overlay some splodges, and I move them over to the other side. And I note that something seems to be coming up from here. That was my markers for doing reference points before. And that there is a flux from one side through the metal plate and coming out through the other side. Okay? And that's it. Now, this is the best imagery I had at the time, but today I have much better imagery. And I'm arguing, and I did in my Russian presentation, that this is the same effect that we are seeing here, and that there is new elements born on this right side. So the side in this case that has the copper is this side, which has come out of here with probably 4.11% zinc 67. And it's the same here. Okay. And it's a fractal version of the one that's here, which I can do at another time. And that produced this transmutation. And that's the same thing that was going on in John Hutchison's 1986 sample. Now, in this sample, I don't believe that the wormhole was going through the matter and coming out here. It may have been. I think it was going over the top, but it matters neither here nor there, really, to be honest. And so that's that structure. Okay. All right, so I'll come out of that. So for those people that I sent some Kerala sand to, if they are able to get a CNC to mill a 3D section of a piece of fine marble and do the same on the other side and bond it together, but put a layer, put these little segments in, you might be able to make some micro pyramids or mini pyramids and test the operation. But you do need to be pretty precise, and I think you're going to see why when we look at this thing later today in a little while. So let me just dump that down there. Okay, so I'm going to need to pull up some images here. So give me a second. So the first one here is the overall wormhole structure, and we can go into this pretty darn close with the magic of this wonderful little camera here. So you can see here is the hole, the punch-through hole. Maybe I can brighten this up for us. Okay, maybe that's a little bit brighter for us. Okay. And we can go right into this. So over here, we've got the area that it punched through. There's some sort of like vorticity going on here a little bit. There seems to be a dump of something here. Like I say, this would be great to get this into a large format device. I imagine that this blob here is mostly zinc because most of the zinc isotopes are not spin. So I think that's probably a deposit of zinc, and some of these white blobs on here and around here may be zinc oxide. But the copper being 63 and 65, it's all spin nuclei. That will be grabbed. Also, you can see, just for the sake of discussing it, there's a nice stray exotic vacuum object here that's collided. and left its little mark. So, and you're going to see a lot of these. They're like basically everywhere. But on here, the dome, there is no hole. There is no hole. And for that, in my view, to be the case, and to have shifted so much material across here, there is a wormhole going from here to here. And therefore, in principle, although as with the reservations of, is this an explosion, a black hole? I don't think there's a black hole going on, but there is something that's pushing things to a point of electronuclear collapse. So this is where I agree with Matsumoto. And then it's firing the thing through the wormhole. But before it comes down to the white hole, it starts to disrupt itself. And that is what is going on when it goes from this area over to here. Okay? So for me, this is fairly conclusive that this process can exist. And therefore, what you would have is, at the point where the material is reborn, you would want the king's chamber. Okay? And so it would come into the back of the king's chamber. That's why I think it's set back into the pyramid some distance, and the material would materialize there. Now, I want to say now that potentially the material that was there, let's say for argument's sake it was gold, was quite likely, I'm going to say something quite interesting right now. It was quite interesting. It was quite likely, jelly-like at least, like Hutchison effect samples. It was jellified, okay, like this. Or it was even liquid, but not molten. It would have been cold. And in that insulating granite box in a granite chamber, it would stay that way. And so now this leads me to the second conclusion, that firstly they could just scoop it out and it would be like stuck to itself, if you know what I mean. It would be a bit like that kind of like thixotropic or whatever it is, that kinetic putty or something. It would just, you'd be able to pull it out. The second thing is with the lion experiment. If you remember in the original lion experiment, the experimenter turned off the reactor, and then to the bolt end of the reactor, like this bolt end on this one here, this bolt end, with the power turned off, he attached a 20-watt halogen light bulb, which lit for 30 minutes. And at the same time, there was cracking and stuff going on. And we know that in that crust that cracked, we found those small charge clusters. So what it might be is that the material that collects in the so-called sarcophagus is actually a battery. It's a charged power source with unimaginable power. Unimaginable power. And you can carry that around, and you can maybe... essentially, what was going on with that tungsten filament light bulb in that 20-watt halogen lamp was that it was essentially lighting that light bulb with the same thing that I believe would be replete in whatever the metal is that would be collecting in the so-called king's chamber. And therefore, you could just have any fine wire of anything, or even maybe some carbonized reeds or something, and you would effectively be able to make light bulbs. You would be able to use that power for all kinds of other things, which we may get to today. And also it's a source of these things which you can literally apply to something else. So bizarrely, if it is gold, and I've argued for a long time that gold is the most suitable element to store this energy in, because it has 79 protons and it's noble. It does not want to oxidize or so it basically is the element in the periodic table that can store the most of this energy within it. Unimaginable power. you could not even imagine the amount of power that would be able to be stored in a very small amount of this material. So bizarrely, the gold, if it is gold, and there's a lot of assumptions here, granted, but if it is gold that's doing the storing of this power and that's synthesized as electronuclear regenerated matter in that chamber, the gold, after it's expelled all of its charge clusters, like the charge clusters did that was expelled from the Lion 1 reactor, that would be the waste product, my friends. The gold would be the waste product. Yeah. Nice waste to have, especially if you can convince everyone else it's useful and valuable. Hi, Kim. So please give a shout to Kim for putting up with me doing this all these years. She's on the chat. Okay, so thank you, Kim. Love you loads. So essentially, the gold might be the waste product. And that is a little bit weird to think about it. Okay, so let's have another look at something else here. Okay. I'm going to have a look at... Now, I haven't lined up the 3D model, so I'm going to have to do that live, and you're going to have to watch me do that live. I'm sorry, but I just didn't have time, so we're going to do that together. We'll see what we see. But I need to open the next image here. Get that out of my face. Okay. Okay. So, this, my friends, is our iron. Okay. So I've taken a whole bunch of photos and fairly meticulously placed them and got the scales right and so forth. Okay. Okay, so here is our structure, and we actually have an even more beautiful shot of that, and we also have it live, which we can look at. So this is our structure, and you'll notice three major areas: this one here, and this one kind of here. Okay, and then the brass was placed on top like this. Okay, now I've got this effectively flat. It wasn't flat, it was actually an angle. Okay, so it would actually be a little bit further away from there than you're looking at here. So this is literally just a 2D flat thing put on top. Okay, and you can see that we have our structure here. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, firstly, you know, a good guide is always our a Mars gas and 10 yen coin here. So what I have is I've had that lined up with our structure here to give us a guide as to where we should be putting things. So this is our Dark Angel here, as I showed on the Aurora Consurgens from the Middle Ages, the alchemy book. So these are the angel wings. This is the angel skirt, little feet coming out the bottom here, and the head. So that's our Aurora Consurgens. Okay. And we'll take that off. We'll put the sacred geometry in here. So that's as it was before. Okay, with our little skirt bits coming off and so on. And remember what I was saying before, that this side is hardly affected. Okay, this is hardly affected. This is affected a lot up here. Really is affected a lot. And this is affected a lot as well. And it sort of comes out here in this smoky kind of appearance here. Okay. So there we go. That is our lining up. Now, there's a couple of points here. Firstly, you can see that this circle, which is the active circle, is where it's keyed. It's keyed on the edge of the iron. Okay. So for me, this helps confirm that what you see in the ultra experiments, the key action is on the yin and the yang raised or lowered parts. Okay, so we see the same thing going on here. Now I will do some top-down placement, but if you imagine our yin-yang diagrams, the little sketch that I've drawn in the past, and you overlay that on the top-down view of the pyramid, you will know that the one of them has to be in front and the other one has to be behind, just as it is in the lion cauliflower structure, where one is behind the other one. Okay, and it's behind the other one on the big circle. Okay, this big circle that forms the Vesica Pisces. Okay, so this is our structure, but you can see over here it's absolutely perfect where those come. If I turn that off, you can see the alignment is spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. Even all the way through to here, where this raised bit comes in here. Absolutely spectacular. The other thing is that our outside of our ball lightning structure here extends outside of the line. If I put in the this structure here, it extends outside, and you can even see the mark where it's bled through. And so I believe that the ball lightning was getting pretty active at this time. We might not have seen it at that time over the top, probably, don't know. But it's affecting and bending this material, and it seems to be bending it along this line, okay? This line. And like I say, I believe, or I'm going to posit today, and I did earlier, that I think that if you had a metal like this, or a material that can build to another level of quantization of ball lightning, this will fold in on itself. It'll produce something that will give birth to another one. That'll get bigger, and then they fold on itself, and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's just a hypothesis I have, having seen this. But I think, believe me, I think that this sample is absolutely critical to understanding this whole process. Okay, so let's go back here, and we will put on this. The other thing to note is that just like in the 10 yen structure, there's almost no damage here. This is mostly zinc oxide on here. It's white, and so the zinc it's a low melting point. It becomes a vapor, it oxidizes, and it comes back down on the material. Okay, so that is the zinc oxide, and it's the same area here is less affected. Okay. On both materials. The other thing to note is that within this lower circle here, there is a lot more sort of bubbly type Evo action going on. A lot more, and it's like this bottom circle. And the other one is the Sothic triangle coming down here, extends to the base of this structure, And you can see that it's really quite tight to the alignment here. Now, bearing in mind that this ball lightning structure might have been slightly off kilter because of the gap between the brass and the iron, there's always going to be some variation. And I think that's where the pyramid is so good at keeping things in the right place. You know, don't bite the hand that feeds you. If that's your source of material, you're going to keep working for that. And also, I don't know the alignment of this, but I would suggest that north was probably that way. Because it's actually working in the reverse way in this case. So, yeah, this is kind of like the north one. So it would be maybe not. Well, it basically is in that line, the north line. Because there isn't a particular solenoid in this like there is a solenoid in the Lion reactor. Now that gives you a clue for how you can engineer devices that work in different orientations. You can actually build a solenoid around the reactor. So this would be relevant to GEAT reactors. Some of you may have clocked why a GEAT reactor horizontal only works easily to get conditioned if it's pointing to north. But when it's upright, it can get conditioned easily in any like rotation of your engine. I think if you consider the fractal component of the n-1 torr, it'll be pretty obvious why that is the case. Okay, but I'll spell it out for those that wish it to be spelled out at some point. Okay, so now actually, if you look at the underside of the brass, some of the material has ripped off. So let me see if I can get that up here. Some of the material has ripped off from here. So I initially thought that this was cleaned, but there is some action going on here as well. Okay, so let me just get that for you. So this is the live image here. So you can see there's material kind of ripped off here. Okay. Now, I don't know whether that's floating or whatever, but that's what would go there. So this bit, I imagine, was mostly here. Okay. But this is bonded harder to it. So this is what, and because of the way that the material goes over the top here, I considered that must be lining up in that way through the hole. Okay, right. So we'll put the sacred geometry. Now the sacred geometry on this one, you can see lines up very well with the lump. Okay. And it extends out. That it has this curve here, just like you get on the experiments from Ultra. You have a curve and then into the pit. Okay. Over here, it's a little bit off, but then, like I say, this whole thing is bent and it's trying to join that, I believe. It's being pulled towards it, or whatever. Something's happening. Okay. Now, one thing you can notice here is this VEGA Pisces line here closely goes through where the split fracture line is. Okay, so we have this split fracture line here, which is disrupted this. And so this is not molten. The bit in the middle here is not changed, but this is turning to jelly. This isn't. This is turning to jelly. I think that is important. And again, this supports the argument that the place for safe existence, or safer existence, should I say, if you have a stable structure, not safe at all if it's not stable, is in the this area of the VEGA Pisces. Okay, all of this area is kind of like not, well, certainly above this line is not being bent like this is over here. But I would rather be here because I think the flux is very intense down here. Okay, so your anti-gravity craft would need to have your crew compartments at this point if you were going to use this technology to go faster than light or whatever it is you want to do. Now, the and this tells you that with 2 and you have metal involved, you're going to end up with distortion in your spacecraft, right? So I would probably not build my craft of metal. I would use non-metals. And I would have as many divisions around it as possible in order that it's very, very stable. I.e. the field of one is pushing the other one away, and therefore it's going to stay rock solid. And so 48, I believe, or 24, certainly not 2, is the right approach, in my view, for stable anti-gravity craft. Okay. Right, so I'll come out of that and you can see the overall shape. Now I'm going to go on to the other side here. And I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to bring some construction lines up so you can see how everything lines up. Okay, so we have the other side here. So I've got it. Now I need to get a better image of this. I had the camera set wrong, so it's not looking. It wasn't looking good. I mean, it doesn't even look as good as it does on here. This looks better, even in the live view. So I need to do a better job of that. Okay. And this is actually quite nice, what we're seeing here. I don't know if you people can see it, but maybe I can actually... Maybe there's a zoom in button on this. Maybe I can zoom in. Is it going to let me do it? Oh, it's not going to let me do it in the live view. Oh, it's not going to let me do it. I've got a better shot of this, and I will get another one, but we have an infinity mark here on this side here. Okay, we have an infinity figure loop here. Okay, and that could be the n-2 Tor effect, or even one below that. But it's very clearly like an infinity. So I've got a very, very high resolution shot of that, but it's not all in focus. So I will do some more work on getting that in a future piece of material. Okay, so let's go in and we'll have a look at this. So I'm going to bring up the extras here. And so you can see from the center of this over to there, from the center of this over to there, you can see how those line up. And I will turn off, not that one, I will turn off this one. So you can see how the structures line up, and I will bring on the sacred geometry here. So you can see the center of the crossover of the golden ratio line here is over this way, and the center of the Christ center here to there somewhere, and the center of this over there. So based on those lines, I pull in the second sacred geometry, and you have this here. Now, what I will say is, and this is true in a lot of these positions, that you see this center bit here is going over this bit here, which would have been wetted down on here. I believe that's because the actual action was occurring a little bit into this plate, okay? And like I say, I will have a much better image here. So, in fact, maybe I can... No, I need to do... Okay. No, what's it gone? There. Yeah, so this circle is here. In fact, you can actually almost see it with a change in color of the metals here. So it's going round here and it's cutting under there. It's cutting under. And this actually occurs in a number of places, which are very important to understanding the pyramid. Okay? I think you know where I'm going here. So, not there. Where are we? Where's my Photoshop? Okay, there we go. So that is going under there. So it looks like there's a little bit of registration area, but I don't think there is. Very interestingly, on this side, you can see this bubbly area in the disruption zone. We know this is a disruption zone from the fluid dynamics image and video that I took in Suhas Ralkar's lab in 2017 in Mumbai. Thank you, Suhas Ralkar. And so we can see that in a fluid dynamic sense. So that has got disruption here, not disruption here. Disruption here, not disruption here. Okay. Now, if we go over to the other side, look at the center point of where the disruption here is. we have a feature. And in fact, I've got that. In fact, I'll get that at a better resolution. But you can see this feature here, there. Okay, this feature, and that is that center point. Okay, and this is like suspended in its own cavity. Okay, so the other thing is, if you remember on this one, if it'll let me play, it'll probably pop away. You remember that there was a strange radiation beam coming out of here, and it just seemed to stop. Strange radiation beam coming out of here, and it just seemed to stop, okay? On this right side of the frame here, okay? Well, guess what? On our structure here, we have this copper that seems to come out and just stop. And I've got this in a much higher quality, okay? So this is in a hydrogen atmosphere with low pressure air. This is in standard atmospheric pressure with HHO on tungsten. Now, if anyone thinks this cannot destroy or manipulate matter, it's manipulating tungsten here. Okay? So there you go. It's the highest melting point metal. I think osmium maybe boils. One boils a little bit higher, but tungsten is the highest melting point metal. Carbon is sublimes, but it's the highest melting point element. Okay? And so this line come out here is verified in this thing here. Now, I might have got the geometry wrong, or this is bent up since this occurred, but I believe that this is coming out on the golden ratio line. And it might be why nature builds things in certain ways. Okay? Right. So then the natural thing for us to do at this point is to overlay the pyramid. So why wouldn't we want to do that? Well, let's overlay the pyramid. And I think it's this way round in this case. Am I right? Maybe I'm right. Am I right? Yeah. So material is coming from down here. Okay? It's coming up here, up here, up here, into our vortex, going round in our vortex, and then going through the wormhole. Going through the wormhole, which is here, going through the wormhole here, and it's a lump. So it is a wormhole, okay? That's the wormhole, okay? Then it comes down through here and starts spreading out as Matsumoto correctly identified. And it comes into the King's Chamber, okay? And it is reborn as new matter. Okay? Right. Now, what I found out from this is that this is not the most accurate diagram of this descending passage here, this one here. But there is sufficient evidence in this to give you an idea. Now, remember what I said about the donut here. The tor is burrowing underneath this structure here. Okay, it's burrowing underneath the outer side of the tor. Okay, well, you literally cannot believe this. You cannot believe this. You cannot believe what I'm going to show you, right? This passage, if I maybe change the viewing here, this passage comes up in this open area. And it actually goes under here, but this is an overhang. Do you understand what I'm saying? This passage wasn't drilled. I've already shown you that the passage had to be built like this. Why? Because around the outside, you have the ball lightning. And if you remember, in the 1921 book, I can't remember the name of the author. You can go back into my previous work and I will try and include the link. This was the first book on ball lightning. They were talking about a ball lightning going into water and boiling a whole barrel of water. And they calculated this fantastic energy that must be released. Well, I said, well, maybe it's not boiling. Maybe it's actually disassociating the water. Okay? because we do know from one of the anecdotes of George Eagley that he took in the 1980s, which he's published, that a ball lightning was able to come into a room and then it disrupted and out of it came liquid water. So what does that tell you? That tells you that when you are in the ball lightning, so let me pull up the images that I shared with you the other day. Okay. When you are, so here's our pyramid. When you are in this zone here, and what happens, you pour the water down, there's residual water in here. There's residual water in moisture in here. That is sufficient to keep it on standby, but it's not enough to get it really going. The water has to come down here and it gets disrupted down here. Okay? And it gets disassociated. And this probably is why some HHO generators are more efficient than others when they create, either by sound or by vibration of any other means, these structures that then have this disruption area, which then splits the water. So this gives you more hydrogen dissociation. So finally, we understand how hydrogen dissociation is at higher efficiency in certain HHO generators than others. Okay? And so the hydrogen comes up here. It cannot come up here because we have this boundary. It cannot go through here. Likewise, and this is genius, it's total genius, you cannot overfill this reactor. Because if you fill it beyond this point, as soon as it gets as soon as it's kicked up, the material that comes here can't go in the reactor. It's self-regulating. It's literally unimaginably perfect. It's unimaginably perfect, this reactor. Okay? So the hydrogen comes up here. It necessarily has to come up here because this entire channel is inside the ball lightning area. It's inside the ball lightning area. Okay? And if you look at the levels here, the level of this point, if this was a water siphon, well, it would only come up to here. It's literally genius. It's so genius on so many levels. Okay, so that is, in my view, why this comes up here. But when you actually look at this, and I will, like I say, I've got better imagery here, and you can see it here. What we're talking about, there's this melted area that's wetted on, but there's a channel that comes up here and round here. You can't believe it. This line that they have on here, and like I say, I've got a different source, an older source, which shows this is a little bit less like straight lines, okay? But it doesn't matter. The line of that structure, unbelievably, but believably, is coming up and coming behind this material here. Okay? It's so perfect. And also, the descending passage goes between two gaps in the material. Do you understand? There is a gap line here. Look, let me go to the other one. So there is, from where it comes down, there's a black line that goes all the way down to the subterranean passage. You cannot design this in any other way. You cannot design this in any other way. It's literally perfect. Literally perfect. So when I was lining this up, I if you do not believe that this is what the pyramid was for, and you cannot see the self-evident nature of what I'm about to show you, I don't know what I can do. I really don't. But this for me was, I couldn't believe. I leapt out of this chair yesterday afternoon. I was running around this room. I was going, oh my God. Oh my God. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I love it when a plan comes together. And whoa, did it come together. I put on our other pyramid. And I thought, you're kidding me. You are kidding me. What? Seriously? Seriously? Are you kidding me? What? No. No. That can't be. That. What? What am I going on about? Look at that, my friends. This is the disruption zone in the top of the brass, and its area, its top area where the water comes in, is precisely where the lower chamber is. Boom! Unimaginably perfect. Unimaginably perfect. How? How? This sample here, this sample that you see here, this sample here, it is perfectly what it needs to be. And because Henk put a piece of brass on top, we proved, not guesswork, this is proof. We proved that there is a wormhole. We proved that the King's Chamber is receiving born matter. We proved that it can go through ordinary matter and not leave a hole. Not leave a hole. Proved. Not leave a hole. There isn't a hole there. Nope, not a hole. It's just a lumpy-de-dump-dump-dump. There's definitely a hole there with some non-spin matter, non-spin matter left on the edge. Unimaginably perfect this thing is made. Unimaginably perfect. Right. I will show you a couple of other images here. So, this, my friends, is the beam that's coming out of one side. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to do, actually, so someone's asked, Rob asked, has the any carbon on blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, I don't have access to a large format SEM until November, earliest. The one that I wanted to buy, we never had the money, and now it's been given to someone else for a year, and so we can't even rent it. So it's just the way it is. But, you know, things happen, because if I had been, I may have not got to use it, I'd have looked at other things, and so these things happen for a reason, so in my view. And so we are looking at this thing over here. It's almost not necessary. We know that this is it. So here is the lower disruption area. Okay, but on the inside. So on this side down here. Okay, this is the disruption area down here. Okay, and by the way, it even has a triangle in it. Here. Okay, this is one of the two sides, and you've got a very, very sharp dividing line in it. Okay, so this is the n-1 level. Okay, and on the other side, I said I'd show you it. Here is our infinity sign, our figure of 8. I will get a better angle at that So I'm not totally convinced about that at the moment. I've got it so close in there at the moment. But it's there. The sample exists. It's not even, you know, so I'm not worried about it. So the question I have is, on one side, yeah, so there's the infinity symbol down there. What I'll do is in a minute, I'll try and move the I'll move the sample up, and we'll have a closer look at that, because we can get much closer with this device. In fact, I'm going to do that now. Why not? I haven't even seen it, so you're going to see it at the same time as me. I need a different box here. A couple of boxes. Let's try this box. This box might be the right height. Yeah. Ooh, look at that. Looky, looky. Look at that. Isn't that nice? Look at that. There's that hexagon structure on the other side. Right, I'm going to actually try and get even closer than that. How close can we get? How close can you go? Let's put a shim of this box under there. Ooh, that's very close. Okay, is that too close? I might have reached the limit now. Yeah, I've reached the limit. Okay. All right. Well, that was pretty good. We like that. Can everyone see the triangle down the bottom there in the disruption zone? Okay. There. Right in this. There we go. These Egyptians, they knew what they were doing. So there's our little spot here, which is not there. Not there. I need to go boink and go boink. So it's this area here on this central point here. You see that little, where the center line, okay, roughly. So if I go back, that's that point there. Okay, so something else is going on there, and that is playing a role down here. As you see our kind of, oh, you can't because I've got my mugshot over it. Okay, let's go there. I love this little splat here. Look, this hexagonal splat with 4 little points on the outside. That's wonderful. Okay. So I've got to zoom in on the structure at the bottom. Okay, what am I referring to? I'm referring to our water reservoir here. Now you understand why on this diagram it looks like a big, nice, clean box. So if I put that back to normal, it looks like a very boxy box with not a very irregular bottom. But if you actually go and look at photos of this place, it's super duper irregular, right? And I think it is probably about the shape that you see here. Now, the actual major disruption zones probably in that area there. Okay. Unimaginably perfect. Imagine when I saw that, it was like, what? You can't be serious. Okay, you can see it nice and clearly on an overlay here. There we go. So, when I get this on an SEM, I'll be looking for gold right about there and right about, where is it? Somewhere, where are we? Got a line there, line there. It's a little bit in, it's in that area, where that area there. I'll be looking to see if there's any interesting elements here. What I think, though, is that we're going to see lighter elements in here. Now, we're going to go and have a look at that because I've got that in stupid res somewhere else. Give me a sec. What force? It's this torsional gravitational flux that's coming down here. It's an anti-gravity wave, and it's just pulling the thing that's holding the matter together. It just falls apart. But it's gentle, I believe. I'm not so sure it's just making it into a gas. In fact, it's actually, in my view, just interacting with the electrons and the proton, because the oxygen mostly is non-spin. But if you remove the hydrogen from water, you're just going to end up with oxygen, aren't you? So you're going to get oxyhydrogen gas coming up here, which, by the way, is what produced this oxyhydrogen gas. And this here actually is low pressure air and hydrogen. So it's kind of like basically all the same thing. Of course it would be. And a lot of Lena reactions, as I showed, are effectively HHO in disguise. You know, they think, even the work of Matsumoto here, as I said, the one that did this is with lead wire, 1 millimeter, 220 volts AC, a couple of pulses of that in potassium hydroxide and light water, and it's doing this. Because it's AC, it's going to be producing oxyhydrogen gas, and it's going to be burning it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I don't even know what Moxie fusion is. I don't know what. There's a lot of people that like to claim it, but obviously this is something that's been around for many thousands of years. It can't be patented. It cannot be patented or owned. It is our inheritance. Right, let me find the image I want to show you here. Okay. I think this is a very big image. I might be pushing my computer right now. No, that's okay. Okay. Nearly there. That's not the one I want. It's one of the ones I want, but it's not the one I want. Give me a second, sorry. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so I believe I've got the right one here now. Yeah. So this, my friends, is, I'll show you the disruption zone first. So our disruption zone on the top of this brass, and I will show you that. So I will bring it up over here. This disruption zone here, okay, that is our area in the lower Turanian level where the material is being converted to oxygen, hydrogen gas. Okay, so you can see the overall structure there. That is the core functions of our pyramid. Our material going into the structure, coming around into the hole, but it all starts down the bottom. The fuel, the key part of the fuel is that structure on the left there. Okay? All right? So, let's drop that down. So here is one look at it, and here is another look at it. We have this in stupid quality. So this is where I would like to go in and look at SEM on a large format thing. But I seem to recognize this right angle structure here. I recognize that right angle structure and this kind of tongue that comes out here with this round structure here. And we can mess around with the luminosity here, and you know, so you can see it a little bit clearer here. So there's kind of right angle structure here, okay, and these very, very clear, intensely affected areas, and then nothing outside around the boundary. So like intensely affected area with some apparent vorticity, over here, same kind of thing going on. Oh dear, now my machine's struggling. I'm trying to push it a bit too hard here. I've got lots of material up at the moment. Okay, so something interesting going on over here, but this is disruption. So I would imagine these typically to be lighter elements than copper or zinc, and we will find out. This whole area is quite funky. There's a bit of damage across here, but there are areas right here where it seems to be pulling stuff in. It's literally stretching the material. So this has to be looked at under SEM. You can see it's stretching in, it's stretching in, it's stretching in, it's stretching in to these points. Okay? And so on that basis, and where are we? Yeah, so this is the area where the main stuff happens. So you can see our yin and yang, and then over here. So let's go back to our diagram of our pyramid. So the main area of extraction is here, right? Okay. So that corresponds to, well, let me say it. This top area here corresponds to this area here. And in this area here, we have what looks like a three-legged spiral. Okay? And right in the center of that, there's something that I really want to know what the element is. This actually could be unobtainium. Right? Now, I have this in even more beautiful quality here. I used a lower depth of field, but we have it even. And this, I have to say, it looks a bit like a winged bird to me. You got the things coming down here, and you got like a wing here and a wing here. Dunno. But right in the center, it has this little arc. Right? It almost looks like its own structure, monopole. Maybe that's the monopole. I don't know. This has to be looked at. Absolutely top priority. I believe that this material here is something very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So that there, if we go back to our pyramid overlay, is this area here. Now, I might have got the scale slightly wrong. I might have got the, this might not be exactly this shape. I think it's actually a little bit more deep. And if that's the case, then this structure that you are seeing here will be where the water is. Okay? Whatever they did, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Okay? So the actual data on the pyramid is what it needs to be. It's just what it needs to be. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you something that actually was the like creme de creme of this whole experience yesterday. And it's just lovely to have seen those things in the Lion reactor. Well, actually, before then, to see those things in Suhas Ralkar's lab and go, that's really weird. You've got this kind of hydrodynamic vortex and it's producing these little bubbles behind. And then when I saw that thing in 2019 with Dr. Roy Shinamaza having analyzed the tungsten, it was like, well, that's it. Something freaking awesome is going on here. And when we know this, it's going to be like magic. And then in that same experiment, you know, that I got asked George Eagley to hold a face mask before they were fashionable, and now they're not fashionable anymore. But, you know, over the end of a vacuum cleaner, and we collected the particles that were coming off not at the vaporization temperature of tungsten or even the melting point of tungsten. It was being disintegrated, and we had synthesized elements coming in there. And I believe a lot of what was doing that synthesis were structures like this, and like the one that actually we captured off that, which was this one. Okay. All right. That one. Okay. There. When I actually show it. So I thought I would do something, and I'm going to do it for you right now, live on camera. But I need to first set up the original position. I might not be quite right with this. Right, okay. I might not be quite right with this, but it is what it is. Okay? So I'm going to switch now. All right. Can you see what it is yet? Can you see what it is yet? Can you see what it is yet? My friends, what if I do this? Can you see what it is yet? Hello? Anyone there? Yes, creating awareness. It is a schematic of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's a schematic. No, it's a schematic. You literally have the pyramid. It has the zone on this side, the zone on this side. It has this thing. This is the chamber where the water goes. This is your feed line where you put the same descending thing where you put the water down. This is the line that comes up into the apple. This is the apple. There's the top of the pyramid. It needs to be bigger. In fact, because this was at an angle, the structure cast its own glow. Boom! So, the interesting thing is here that the Egyptians actually likely had oxyhydrogen gas. They had a Baghdad battery, right? I'm pretty much sure that someone had that before. And they had access to brass. This, my friends, is brass. Could there have been someone out there a long time ago that was messing around with their oxyhydrogen torch, and they happened to chance on this and thought, seriously, what's that? Because this will work at any scale. This will work at any scale. And so they could have thought, well, maybe we can scale this up. And it only needed one person on one planet somewhere in the universe to do this. And then you've done it. You've done it. Yes, Rob, you're right. The strange radiation path is in line with the shaft from the King's Chamber. Yes, it is. Yes. This will work at any scale. So, I believe, because we know from this experiment 100%, right? You don't have to guess. It's shown for you precisely. Okay? In this experiment, we have demonstrated, thank you, Henk Jurrien, that brass can withstand this disruption beam for a period of time. It can't withstand it up here, right? It can withstand a disruption beam for a period of time. But if you had non-spin material, a non-spin element as a shaft that came down the center line of the Vesica Pisces, sorry, not the Vesica Pisces, yes, center line of the Vesica Pisces that then came down the Sothic triangle. You could even have it coming down here and then coming round and bent at an angle, right? And I bet you there are some hieroglyphs that act just like this. There will be a line that comes down and it'll come round and bend at an angle, which will have your handle on it. And then what you have is you energize this thing either with charged energy that you've already captured into something else, or with, basically you have a line that comes down maybe over this side at an angle, and then you have a small one of these on a pole. On a pole, right? And you spin it up so that this is highly energetic, and then you cut rock with it. You have a little one for doing little fine details, and you cut rock in big scallops, round scallops. They will cut out round scallops. And if you even had the pyramid in there, like in the shape, right, this bit would cut your... It depends on the materials. I would prefer to keep all of the material of the reactor inside the sphere, okay? So you design the same shape. You have the arm coming down through the Sothic triangle, but not on the disruption side. You have it off to the off angle, and you know precisely where this will go. You will know precisely where it will go. It's on here. We've done it. Job done. You don't have to guess. You don't have to guess. The plans are there. The plans are there, right? The plans are exact. They will be the exact every single time. Every single time. Okay? So, you will be able to make a device that will cut through anything. Because we know it can cut through titanium, because we did that in Japan with Dr. Roy Shinamaza. We know that it can cut through tungsten. Okay? I don't think there's much else we can use. Okay? It won't cut through carbon, by the way. Not very easily. And I think we showed that with PTFE. So Terran Artist said, so who gets to build a miniature pyramid and make some gold? Chat, anyone? Yeah, you better be quick, because it won't be worth much. It'll be a waste product. Everyone will want the activated gold. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't just that Rob says the titanium cut with the Teflon was crazy. Yes, but the Teflon wasn't cut. The titanium was. You understand? I predict that your rocks manipulated with this technology will have a nice smooth surface. I predict that they will have scallops. They will have spherical section scallops that are the size, that define the size of the tool that was used, right? And you should be able to make this tool any size you like. Because this, and I'll go and get the actual data for the tungsten one, so we know how big this would be. Okay. I think I've got it in here. Before I do that, I just want to finish the point on this rather amazing structure that we showed you. Not this one. Our jewel, our so-called jewel. And I've called it jewel. I've called it jewel. Why? Well, because we've seen these things before. I now fully understand what they are. In fact, it was my interim understanding, but I still think I understand it now. This jewel in lion is the same thing. This structure in the side of the echo fuel, and you can see that on the edge you have these spheres, and this is similar to around the boundary of that structure. So around the boundary of this structure, when it comes up, you have these little zones here, these disrupted zones here, and I believe that's the same thing that you are seeing around the boundary of this. Okay. But it is, in my view, this jewel. I think we finally explained it. Finally. And if I actually go here to this X-ray of a jewel, which I colorized. This is from the Lion reactor. It's this kind of shape. Okay? It's this kind of shape. With a disruption zone here. That there, in my view, is the equivalent of this zone here. So, we already know in the Lion reactors there were fairly large EVOs, and the EVOs themselves were cutting through alumina, right? Which normally melts at something like 2,100 degrees centigrade. Don't worry about the melting point. You can fashion alumina, and the thing about that was it was cutting it incredibly perfectly curved that alumina. It wasn't broken. It was perfectly, just, milled, but, with perfect smoothness. Okay. So that is essentially that, really. So I want to know what this birdie thing looks like. It looks a lot like birdies we've seen in antiquity on various drawings. Tibetan singing bowl equals the Holy Grail. I will deal with the dung beetle wings at some point. I've got a lot to say on that, but whatever it's doing, it's creating this structure. It will be creating this structure. Nature is not going to give us another option. And you cannot, doesn't matter about how clever you think you are, you cannot improve upon this. You can't. No, they've used the right materials in the right shape, in the right place on the planet Earth, with the right orientation, using the right fuel, and the channels are all in the right place, and the protections are all in the right place, and the capstones will be the right capstones. It's literally freaking perfect. Perfect. It's perfection built on perfection. Just want to see it get it working. Can we do a whip round? Can we do a let's get the Pyramid of Giza working crowdfunding? let's start a crowdfund for getting the Giza pyramid working, and I'll make a video to explain how it works. How about that? Need to raise $5 billion to give unlimited energy to the world. Can we have the spare pocket change? Can we have a 2 weeks war budget somewhere to change planet Earth? Oh dear. We must not let them pretend that they invented this. We must not let them subjugate us with the weaponization of this technology. We must not let them do that. Your responsibility right now, your duty is, even if it's really freaking embarrassing, is to try and go out there and message this. I will do whatever I can to make it as clear as possible. But I think the Navy and the lab scientists, with what happened last week, they could have, within 1/2 of a day, got an ultrasonic device, tested it, and found that it did what I said it did, right? And therefore they know that this is the way it is, right? But they haven't seen what I saw yesterday, which is that you can make a plan for how to build a Pyramid of Giza for about $500 of scrap material. Thank you, Henk Jurrien. When I said to your family, I don't think it's quite clear to everyone just what an amazing thing Henk has done. And that was just when I was looking at the hole. that was just when I was looking at the hole. I wasn't thinking of this. I was just looking at the hole going through the material, like over here. That alone for me was, well, there we go. That's it. It's definitely doing it, right? Explain that, mister. This doesn't work. Explain it. Now, go and explain why every single Lena experiment I look at produces this Vesica Pisces structure with these yin-yangs. Why? Why does it do that? If you haven't got an explanation, find an explanation. This could be carbon being synthesized around here. It's not important because the reactor, it will be placed in calcium carbonate. And so because this is spin matter, it easily gets transmuted. And so it throws out the transmuted material. But if you're just starting with calcium carbonate, basically 99.77% of all of the atoms within that calcium carbonate are non-spin matter. So they're basically not going to interact ever. And the only thing that will interact is the hydrogen, because it's a spin nuclei and the electrons in the water that's down in the chamber. and that allows you to capture hydrogen, and the hydrogen goes up as we've discussed into where are we? Oh, what an honor! What an absolute honor! Anything I could have imagined to do with my one life, to have the honor of doing this. And thank you to my wife and family for putting up with it, and thank you to everyone else that's helped this happen through the ages, because all of those masons that chipped away at a bit of stone and didn't really know necessarily what they were doing, they were all part of carrying this knowledge forward. And we've got to give a huge thank you to them. Huge thank you. I'm gonna find what I'm looking for soon. I can't guarantee it, but So I will overlay the model. I'm not going to do the 3D model tonight, but I will try and overlay the 3D model and share a couple of images on this plan of the Giza pyramid. How to build a Giza pyramid in brass. What am I looking for? No, not that. Really? Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, so there we go. So we just need a couple of bits of that nicely radioactive marble. Granite. Need to plug a few holes. We need to seal the chamber. Say to the customers, unless you want to be turned into etheric matter, please avoid going into the reactor. Yeah. So there we go. All right, if you've got any questions. Anyone got any questions? It's done, basically. It's done. You can't. Well, can you do it? So, someone planning to make this with EDM, because you're going to need to do it in metal. So maybe you could do it in iron, but that's going to mess up the magnetics of it. Don't try and not do calcium carbonate. You need fine marble, like the stuff that I got from the side of a mountain. That my wife has a friend who has a quarry business, or rather, they just do marbles for like floors and stuff. So she got me that 10 by 10 by 10 centimeter cube for the proposal to fix Fukushima before they changed the rules and said, we want to concentrate this, we don't want to get rid of it. But anyway, it helped me understand the pyramid, so that's the point of what I was doing there. It wasn't to fix Fukushima, it was to fix the pyramid. There will always be vibration, but I think the more important thing is to have the ionized particles, but to have the geometry. The geometry for me is the most important thing. Absolutely, the geometry is the key. If you don't have this geometry, you are wasting your time. Now, you can align the pyramid to north, and that will help. Okay. Or you could put the whole thing in one big solenoid. I think it's easier to align it to north. And it would just be awesome to have these like light bulbs, and all they do is they just need a bit of water and they self-regulate, because like when they're on when they're on, they don't let the water in. I think basically when you have the material that you get out the center here, or you get these things highly spun up, they will soften rock. So you can carve the rock, but if you interact with the rock, depending on the amount, it'll either cut it or it'll soften it. So you might get a nicely cut block, and then you soften up a zone. Maybe depending on the size of your tool bit, you might soften up maybe a 20 centimeter zone, and you just put the rock into place. Maybe you're using some other aspect of the technology to lift these rocks, but that neither here nor there. It doesn't really matter. And then you just put it in place, and it kind of settles. The Great Pyramid is lined vertically. What about horizontal laying flat? No. Don't try and improve this, Ken. Don't try and improve it. Effectively, the Lion reactor was a Great Pyramid. Okay? The thing about the Lion reactor is it creates its own magnetic field using the solenoid, right? And it is in alumina. That is its ceramic. Aluminium is a problem, and so aluminium does get damaged, and we saw that it does get damaged. You would probably want something that absolutely has... okay, so I've said this before, but it was what Parkhomov used in his 225-day reactor. It was silicon carbide. Silicon is 28 or 30, almost exclusively, and it's carbon, which is almost all 12. Okay, so I would use silicon carbide, and the rest kind of comes out of it, to be honest. Gordon, so he's saying the fable is that the builder of the pyramid wanted to build something that would last a very long time, which would codify the knowledge of the universe and such. That is exactly what it does. Yep, that is exactly what it does. This is how the universe works. You can have an opinion. You can have a very nice press release. You can have a very, very forceful argument. You can have an extremely good scientific paper with lots and lots of numbers and equations everywhere, and everyone wants to publish it. But this is how you do it. You don't have a choice. That's how you do it. This is how you do it. This is how we do it. It's already perfect. Just put your ego to one side and say to yourself, I cannot improve upon this. I need to learn to accept that this is perfection. Right? Now let's replicate it. Bob, so pre-pyramids, do you think that Sumerian kings list... okay. I didn't really want to do this today, but I've said for a very, very long time that the kings lived for a very long time because they were able to pause time. And I've said it's because they can go into this structure, which I'm talking about O. They can go into the structure, and gravity and the thing that causes time to go forward stops. So this is my hypothesis for how it worked. It, very precisely, this is exactly, I'm saying this and I might be wrong. I don't think I am. I might be wrong. Okay. This is my hypothesis. Let me just get the image. And that's why I started this YouTube stream by saying, who wants to live forever? This is going to be a little bit of crazy. Oh, dear. Oh. You got to give it to them. You got to give it to them. What am I looking for? We go here, we go here, we go here, we go here, we go here. Right. Remember, the pyramid is the solution. What is the question? Okay? All right? We know from our experiments here that there is a zone where there ain't too much going on that is unpleasant. Yeah? Okay? I suspect, although I don't know, that if there is oxygen in here, it might be the case that you get some nitrogen and hydrogen and whatever, but the nitrogen and oxygen are going to stay here, and that's basically everything you need to breathe. There is an alcove in this chamber, and I think that is there for a specific reason. And I think that, and I've said this for a long time, if you have an anti-gravity craft built on this technology, because the thing that causes cells to divide, the things that cause all random processes to occur, is this dark matter flux. And if the dark matter flux cannot penetrate through here, okay, then what I'm saying is, if you go into here, your electrons stop. Well, actually, I think they would stop completely here, but then you would be dead. So this is just a little bit shy of stopping, right? But you still have chi force coming through you, okay? I'm quite worked out because I think the dark matter comes in from the top, not wholly, but ordinary matter comes through here. But obviously, if this was a problem, they wouldn't have put it here because it would fill up with stuff, right? So I think that time will essentially stop. You will go into this and you'll say, right, guys, I want you to do X, Y, and Z for the next 500 years. And you go in here and you say, spin it up, keep it running. And when I come out, I'll give you a load of gold for your efforts. Right? And basically, your time is frozen. And it would be the same when you were in our spacecraft, right? But I still don't want to be in the spacecraft. We know that water and sand can come out of these ball lightning. And so there must be areas within this that are not causing a problem. Okay? And my first candidate for a spaceship is up here. My first candidate for a place which is better than other places is here. Not here. But I'm not certain. You know, when the pyramid is running, I'd like to put some mice in there first. Okay? But I think if you put some like fruit flies in here, okay, and they had all the oxygen they needed, they had all the food, I think you would probably come in there after 100 days, and there wouldn't be another fruit fly. They'd literally not divided, they'd not have procreated, but they would still be alive. So I think that essentially time will be frozen in this point. Consciousness will be frozen as well. You might enter the great consciousness. So yeah, that's basically that. The other one is, and this is super a little bit of crazy. You know, this is a lot of crazy. We're moving from a little bit of crazy to a lot of crazy, right? Get ready for this. You're ready for this. That alcove may be oh God, how do I put this? A resurrection alcove. And basically your pattern and your spirit is captured here. It goes through the structure and rebirths over here. I said it was crazy. So there we go. I've said it now. All right. So, you know, I knew, I was convinced for a very long time it would be able to freeze time. I've been consistent that. I have no idea how you can go backwards in time with this technology, right? I don't see a way that anyone can ever go backwards in time. But relatively, you can go forwards in time because you freeze your time. Of course, when you're using this as a spaceship to go to some other galaxy, you know, far away, you would be in a part of the ship that has this freezing time thing. And so literally your chemistry is frozen in time. Everything about you is frozen in time. But as soon as the field drops that freezes everything. Literally, your quantum state is locked until it goes through a threshold, and then it boots up again. And you literally have not aged a second. Now, I suspect that here you are aging extremely slowly. Because it's like a gravitational flux coming through here, an intense gravitational flux. And so it's literally like, if this is like, let's say, the black hole kind of thing, the time is slowed down so much here, but not so much that it stops. Okay. Do you get that? Right. So I think that basically this is to freeze time. So the gods, so-called gods, people keeping technology from other people, they may have, like I said, told people to get on with stuff, gone into their pyramid and say, look, I'll be out in 500 years. Like, just switch the reactor off. And it might be that the amount of water that goes in here is enough to run it for a long period of time. I don't know, because we don't know that. Like, it depends how much you put in, or if there's some artesian well. Like, only when the river runneth dry does the god come out of the pyramid. Like, hello guys, I'm back again. Right? So, but I believe that the variations of this technology will be able to convert the energy, because here it is, I believe, converting the hidden energy within matter, in this case copper and zinc, but mostly copper, into energy that is helping to drive this process. Okay? And the process itself helps to extract the energy that it needs. It's a virtuous cycle. Okay? So this, I believe, is what is in that 1992 CIA debrief document that was declassified in 2017, when they said with 1 kilo of iron we can get to Alpha Centaurian back, and it's related to the so-called technology of cold fusion, and that the device that extracts the energy from the iron is the propulsion technology. This, I believe, is exactly what we are talking about. Maybe there's other options in a different universe, but in this universe, this is what we are talking about. And this is the key of the action. This little thing here with this little toroidal jobby what's it in here, which I'm going to have a look at with a different microscope when I can get a chance. Something about this little beauty here. This little beauty. That is definitely doing some action there on that. And there's these little zones off to the side. There's definitely something interesting going on down here. So this area here for me is really kind of interesting. There seems to be all these licks that are kind of all heading inwards. Like, it looks like an explosion, maybe, or maybe it's an implosion. I don't know. I suspect we'll find quite a few iron-rich crenellated balls on here. Okay. That's some nice, interesting stuff up here. But this for me, want to know what that is. I want to know what it is. I want to know what that is. What is that? Okay. So we go back to our schematic of how to build a pyramid. With our, in case it wasn't obvious enough with that, we've got another glowing action version off at a distance. No, Shadow D, the pyramids don't do everything. The technology that underpins how the pyramids work can do pretty much everything you want. So how do we safely knock the energy out of the gold jello to render it safe and worthless gold? You plug it into a light bulb, or you plug it into an electricity grid until it runs out of charge clusters, right? Have you seen the book Occult Chemistry? No. By the Theosophic Society? No. If not, you must check it out. It's about remote viewing the subatomic level. Okay, well, that sounds interesting. I know it can take an age to look around a few millimeters with an SEM, and several months to look around a few thousandths of a millimeter using a transmission electron microscope at Lordy, looking around the subatomic level. Yikes! You'd need to be in the middle of this pyramid just to be able to have a chance of looking at it all. How would you control the amperage? I think what would happen is it would pull the amount of power that it needs to pull. Okay, so what do I mean by that? I mean that it's basically a current source. So for instance, when the Russians were doing this, when they had a Tesla coil and they were running over an 8-micron wire, they were lighting 25 kilowatts of tungsten filament light bulbs, right? So we can get back to proper light bulbs that emit things that are good for us, right? Not like blue light that keeps us awake and messes with our circadian rhythms. Yeah, it would self-regulate. So, like, I think that this is the technology that was used to make the sample that supposedly was claimed to have come off a UFO that was given to Boyd Bushman, that he talks about in one of his videos. And he said, I don't know, it was a very small piece, but he ran an entire laboratory off it for a week. And, you know, whatever devices you attached to it, it took the power it needed. Yeah. So, yeah. That's basically that. Let's have a look at our lovely spiral vortex structure there. It's nice, isn't it? Is the red blobs cinnabar? What? Don't know. What are you talking about? Okay. Yeah. It's like the things that... I mean, the radiation from the granite, it's like lots of people live with that their whole lives. I mean, where I was living in Kerala, they have the highest background level of radiation on planet Earth. And they did a test of people on the beaches of Kerala, where I got my black sand from. And they have no difference in the cancer rates to the ordinary people. Now, you could argue they've been fishing there for like thousands of years, and anyone that had insufficient capability in their body already died in a previous generation. So there is that. But, you know, I used to roll around in that black sand and not really taking it very seriously. And I'm still here. I might not be here in a few weeks, but I'm still here. That didn't get me. What a thing of beauty. Thank you, universe. Thank you, universe. What a thing of extreme beauty. So, it's self-regulated. Do it. The balancing itself from spin rate changes. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I mean, what you would want to do, you would want to keep this in an insulated chamber. And you would probably want to have several layers to prevent any strange radiation. But we know now how to shield for strange radiation. We know the distance it goes to largely, and I think that is because it's always creating kind of like a ball lightning skin around it type thing, but you can't see it. And so, yeah, I think we have an opportunity to have a good understanding, but you know, play safe. Safety, 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 safety. Right? But thank you for Henk Jurrien for taking this trouble, and thank you to John Hutchison, because if it wasn't for John Hutchison, I wouldn't have started down this tour route. I wouldn't have started, you know, seriously considering a potential structure for doing these things. And I now have a very, very, very serious conversation I can have with Mr. Dr. Takaki Matsumoto. I think we're going to have a great blast. Yeah. This is being given to us by God through millions of people's effort. And that's it. And the delivery can only be done by people and more effort. But the fact that a relatively simple experiment done by Henk Jurrien, the analysis reveals the plan for the Pyramid of Giza. And it will always be the same. It will always be the same. So if people want their own plan, they can replicate a Vega experiment, which is fairly simple, and do what the arrangement that was shown here with a brass. I will share the thickness of the minimum. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. I've got a calipers here. I don't know whether I've got any batteries in it. So, just so you know, I will give you the dimensions right now, so you can do the experiment. Just in case someone is keen to make themselves a pyramid plan. Tell me, how do I make a pyramid? Well, you get an old gas tank. You get a load of microwave transformers. You get a bit of brass. And get a bit of iron. And a couple of capacitors. And you run an experiment with some dodgy old pump. And a bit of hydrogen. And you'll get your plan. Just pay attention. Right. The piece of brass is 85 millimeters long by 54 millimeters wide, and the thickness is, I'm really doing this. The thickness is, maybe I've got a battery in this. Have I got a battery in this? If I have, it's dead. Okay, all right. And the thickness is 3 or 4 millimeters. 4 millimeters thick. Okay. That might be important because the, of course, our, what do you call it, structure? Our disruption zone structure down here. Yeah, down there. Our disruption zone structure here. That it is not so clear on the other side. And so it's wonderful. I mean, the amount of serendipity that went into this, I can only assume, and I'm going to say it, this has to be have been planned by God. So it might seem a bit weird, a little bit of crazy. Look, actually, you can see, I don't know if you can see right now, there's a little bit of a 3D impression on that. Can you see it? Can you see it there? Where the light's catching it now. Maybe I can. Maybe it's under my mugshot. No, I'm not even showing you, am I? There we go. Can you see it? It's actually got a little bit. It's like its own heart. Yeah. Can you see that? Yeah. You'll see it in a minute. Right, I'm going to give you the soft iron chunk here. Soft iron chunk. Yeah. I'm going to go and zoom in on that at that angle and see if I can get the same light on it, because it's showing a nice 3D structure to it. It's really rather fine. So the iron here, the soft iron, is... oh, now it's working. Now it's working. Okay. Come on, there we go. It's 9.85 millimeters thick. It is 60 millimeters wide, and it is 90 millimeters long. Okay, Everyone got that? So there you go. I'm going to zoom into this for you right now, because I've got a nice angle on that, and I think we'll see something which I've not seen until I just saw it. Oh, look at that. Can you see that beautiful edge on that? Can you see it? Oh my, that's a thing of beauty. The disruption zone is a thing of beauty. Look at that. Look at it. What? What? It's madness. So on the far end there, you know what? This almost looks like a self-similar structure, but I don't think it is. I think this is the triangles we've seen a lot of. The ones that are on their own and were identified by Solon. So at the bottom end here, you have the red sort of bird thing. And at the top end, you kind of like have a vortex in its own right. So this might be like a kind of miniature one of the same thing. What an amazing thing this is. Wow. It does look a bit like a butterfly in a way, yeah. So that's kind of what it looks like up close. Like that. So this is why you need to use all kinds of different ways to look at things. Because if you looked at it like that, you would not see that there is a ridge around the outside here. But you do see it when you look at that. Okay? You see a ridge around here and a ridge around here. Okay? Maybe I can get a little bit... Can I get a little bit closer than that? I think I'm nearly at the limit. But I need something... Maybe I can put that under there. Just try and go for a little bit extra definition on that. That isn't the extra definition. I think you're aware. Oh, hello, hello. Oh, I'm just on the threshold. Damn it. Maybe I can push it down. There we go. Yeah, that has quite a defined boundary. If I move my mouse. So sometimes when you're doing microscopy, you can just push down on something that you can displace. Wow. Look at that. So that's it. So yeah, I think I'm going to take a photo of that. I'll do some stack focus macro photography of that, I think, so I can capture what we're seeing there, which is another thing of beauty. Aren't we lucky that it appeared there and not here? Okay. Bob, can I join you to volunteer in the Netherlands? Yes, well, I think Henk would be very happy for some support there. Yeah. I don't know when I'll be next there. And let's see if we can... I don't think we can get the whole pyramid in here like this. Can we? I don't know. Can we get the whole pyramid in? Right, like that. And... That's fine. We'll leave it on the figure of 8 there. So, how can I get in touch? Can we chat via remote view afterwards? Yes, anyone can contact me through remote view. These effects and shapes remind me of galaxies and superclusters. Absolutely. Like this is that's exactly what I was thinking. It's exactly what I was thinking when I looked at this. Right, we've lost the live camera. It's almost certainly that it is this. The yin yang will always mean so much more to me. Yeah, I've learned a huge appreciation for ancient cultures, and I think since 2008, I said like every symbol, you know, they've been literally rubbing it in our faces all of our lives. But I you know, I didn't know how it all fitted in together. And I just thought this is going to be a gargantuan effort, but you know, let's do it. There we go. I'm going to rotate that. Can we rotate that? I'm going to rotate that so that we can have a look at it a little bit straight on. There we go. Looks like an angel, doesn't it? How much would a functional miniature pyramid cost 37 meters high? I have no idea. But I imagine these things were probably mass produced because they were. In my view, they made them at all different scales, potentially for using the coherent, you know, thing on the outside to sculpt stuff. I think it was like you just went down to the local hardware store, you bought your fish, and you bought your stone cutting tool, which you probably had to fill it up with water. Little bit crazy. Oh dear. So okay, I'm going to see if I can do any questions, and then I might call it a night. It's been quite tiring these last couple of weeks. No, I'm saying $500 is to create the plan. Like, to create the plan. One pyramid, please. Look, maybe I can do a focus on this. Is it going to give me a focus? Where's the focus? So it's not got it there. No pyramid. There we go. Okay. Get there in the end. There. Oh, God. One pyramid plan. Yours for only $500. No. I know you can get autofocus lenses. Pyramid would be cool, Fractal Woman. Yeah. I only have this radioactive thorium from Kerala, so that would be the activating material that I would use. In my head, I would get my wife to get some fine, highly dense marble. The thing is, because you need to have the chamber slightly offset and so on. But I would start with the best 3D geometry that's available of the pyramid. I would. There's no 3D geometry that defines the second chamber, but I pretty much think I know where that is. We can do that by just making the 3D model and going, oh well, that's where it should be. And that's the bit where there will be variability. But you know. I would love a device that you sit on a table and it just glows. You don't want it to be too intense, but you know, it might be nice to have a one of these devices sitting on the table, and you just get your bit of rock which you want to carve and just go. It's like It's like a bandsaw and an angle grinder and a drill and everything put into one. You might literally have a load of these. I can imagine a workshop in Atlantean times, and you know, they all, all around the workshop are just loads of different scale pyramids. There might be like a focus rig to move something down a line on a worm drive, so you can get an absolutely precise line, or you know, a couple of these things that are cutting across. But yeah, it would just be hilarious. It's like the devices are on. Has anyone got the water to power these cutting tools? My cutting tool has used 5 grams of water this week. Yeah, milling machine is probably the way I'd go. I am saying that, like, you know, the name of my blog is Back to the Future, like, and it's oh God, I can't even remember. Critical fiction, insight through critical fiction. Thanks, creating awareness. Yeah, I don't think they had a problem doing precise engineering. The problem with doing precise engineering is often you're like having to like put in steel reinforcing, and you're having to like put up shutter ply, and it's all very heavy and so on. The idea of you just soften up the outside of a block and you put it in place and you just ground it and it's a perfect fit every time. That's what you want. Done. Fractal Woman is asking, are pyramids scalable in the fractal sense? I would suggest they are. And the reason I argue that is because this structure here is in the microns. In fact, I'm going to go and find and tell you how big this structure is right now. So, do I have it in this? No, I don't. I had it earlier. What did I do with it? I think it's in coherent matter wave beams. Is it? No. I'm pretty sure I had it in there. Okay. No, it's not there. I had it earlier today. Anyway, if I don't find it now, I will put it into the fractal toroidal transmissions. Thought it was in there. Okay, I don't have it here. Let me see if I can. I know where it is on my resource drive. I will get it because I said I would today, and I'm going to. All right. Okay, let's do this. So I want to go. What do I want? Here and here, because I think it's useful to answer that question. And I want and I think I have to thank Alan Goldwater for providing the SEM and for going to the trouble of buying the SEM with his own money. It took a lot of guts, to be honest. And I can only find the, oh dear. That's not very helpful, is it? I can only find the analysis at the moment. Oh, there we go. Oh, here we go. There we go. So here is the head. And so that is what, 50 microns across? 60 microns? Maybe 50 microns across. So you can make a tool that's given that this is the size it is, and our pyramid would need to be outside of that, our coherent matter area would be outside of that, you could probably make a cutting tool that was 60 or 70 microns. So let's say 60 thousandths of a millimeter. Here's the overall structure. Okay. There's the sphere at the bottom. This is the carbon film in this area, and it comes up in a little wavy line and then comes up into here. This is the base area, and this is a different image at the side, and you can see the coherent matter beam coming out of that golden ratio line. So here is the SEM, not of that. Oh, this is the correct SEM. It's got the wrong image in the background. So we're looking at 1167 is where the sphere is. And if you look at that, oh no, I haven't got it on this page. Oh, maybe it's in a different thing. Oh dear. All right. Well, that wasn't very good, was it? Here it is actually looking at it through a different view. So this is actually showing the elemental distribution. So again, you can see that there's a lot of carbon on this blob, this circular blob, and you can literally see how striking this disk is that's here. And that's that lower disk. So if we go back to the this structure here, and I go to turn off our pyramids and our sacred geometry for now on that one and that one and that one. Okay. So you see where this lower circle is, and we have that disruption area. So there's a bubbly area here. This obviously is a lot larger than the one that we see in this one. Okay, but it is a circular section. But you see how striking that line is. Oh dear. I do have that somewhere. Maybe it's in that directory. Let's go. Show in closing folder. No. And this is the Amasa, not the vibrator ultra experiment here. You see how they, and this is I guess one of the channels that comes up. I don't know. Anyway, there we go. So obviously this is 400 microns across in the ultra experiment, and that's dependent on the resonant sound frequency. And this is, as I said, 60 microns across. So just to review, we looked at the experiment by Henk Jurrien, which I have analysed over the last couple of days in light of actually crafting the 3D model of O. And we showed that it lines up with the 3D model. I haven't done the 3D model on this, but it lines up with this one, which is a Masa gas, which is HHO, which is what is in this reactor on a 10 yen coin, which is predominantly copper, but it has 2% or so of a low single digits of percentage of zinc. And it's moving the material from this side to this side where this is copper, and it's synthesizing elements on this side. So there's new elements being formed on that side, and it's the same story going on here. And basically I overlaid the sacred geometry here, and this perfectly lines up with these kind of features and so forth. Okay, and then we looked at the top side, which is like this, and in looking at the top side we saw extremely clearly that there was an in and an out, and that the side where the matter is destroyed goes into a wormhole, and there's no penetration point, but there is a raised lump. And over here there is a kind of bending going on and so on, and it's penetrated directly through, and this is when it's coming out of the wormhole. And we can see that actually it's just like in a yin yang, exactly the same ratios as you see in an ultra experiment. This starts to raise up in the dome and so on. And in fact, the edge of the Vesica Pisces comes on this line here, all the way around here. And in fact, if you look at it, there is even this kind of curve that comes around here and so on. But it's not so clear. But, you know, there will be other ones. But the real amazing takeaway was this disruption zone over here. Unimaginable when I dropped in the pyramid on this and found that the resource for the water, I mean, you could put anything down here, you could put rubbish down here, but water is going to get hydrogen and oxygen, and that's what you really need. The hydrogen is what you need to run the reactor, and it's just easier to pour it down the hole. Okay, now looking on the flip side of this pyramid, we see this. I don't have the live view at the moment, but the most amazing takeaway that came from this was, and although it's not the accurate, the rising gas tunnel, it actually goes under this area here. And also the area at which the descending passage goes down is also in an area that doesn't have material. It literally works its way through a gap between the material here all the way down. So, you know, this is utterly perfect. It is so amazing. And we actually have the plan of the pyramid right there. On there. There's the pyramid. Right there. Where is it? There. Okay. Thank you, Henk Jurrien. And so people probably had access to HHO. They probably had access to brass. And so this could have been discovered by them or by Atlanteans or the Akkadians or the Assyrians or whatever. You know, just doing and not being accepting that things are not possible. Just doing it allows you to get into a position where you can explore these things. And so, yeah, that's that. Okay. Oh, I'm not showing you, am I? What an idiot. Oh, okay. I'll try that again. What a recap of a recap. Okay. Oh, dear. Sorry. You had it all before. Just skip on to the recap of the recap. Okay, so to recap the recap. Sacred geometry there, done, right? We have a bubble zone here, and the bubble zone is reflected also in the 10 yen coin here, and those two bits, right? This is not going to be the best review because I'm getting tired. And then we overlaid this, and when we put the pyramid on there, the disruption zone down the bottom is exactly in this chamber. And then we looked at the other side over here, and when we were looking at that and we put the pyramid on there, we had the rising passage coming up here and round here inside the ball lightning zone. And so there we go. And actually you can see on this that central feature which I focused on earlier, which is on the boundary of this circle. Okay, this area here, that's the center line goes down there, and it's literally on that side of that center line. Okay. So yeah, I don't know, this might need to be flipped actually. Sorry, I might have got that flipped wrong, but you get the idea. The other one's correct, actually. I might have got that wrong, by the way. That's correct. Okay. All right. Yeah, because the triangular bits that comes up there, actually. That makes sense. So yeah, I got that. Sorry, I just can't get everything right. I only did it a couple of hours before. So that should flip over, because it should be the mirror of that. I'm going to do that right now. So I don't leave it wrong. Okay. That's what happens sometimes. Could not transform. Oh, that's because I'm not on the right thing. Not quite right. Anyway. You didn't think you were going to have a live working session, did you? Oh dear. Anyway. Okay, something like that. Yeah, so that's how it should be. Okay, and that makes sense, because that's where the triangle bits are coming up here. GP is Great Pyramid. Yeah, just for those that want to see the Eye of Providence, basically, the model that I derived before I even considered the Eye of Providence. It's only when the model got settled did I think, oh my God, is that the Eye of Providence? And then I'll call it a night. I'm just too tired, and it's been exhausting. Right. Anyway, you should know by now that this is how it is. Okay. Overlays. Okay, so, right. So, here's the overlays. La, 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 la. So, this is the structure. The key points are that the coherent matter here, you need to have granite blocks for the double layers. And probably one double layer of danger was here and one double layer of danger was here. Okay? And so it's that big. The water comes down here. When it's running, the water has to go up through this channel, sorry, as gases, hydrogen and oxygen. This will glow like a big ball lightning, but the pyramid will be designed so it doesn't make the pyramid disappear, because that would be bad. So it's kept below a certain level of intensity. But of course, the intensity of this, the substructures are going to be more intense. So it gets more and more intense as you go into the fractal substructures. But the overall structure is below a threshold, which would prevent the pyramid from disappearing. And then they have a channel that comes in from the side here, and I haven't got it overlaid in this particular image, but that channel comes in here and allows, when the pyramid looks like it's switched off and they want to check, they just look in there and they either smell sulfur, ozone, or little blue lights flying around, little sprites, and if they see it or smell any of those things, they say it's still active. And so they'd wait until that was over. But essentially, what you are seeing in this is the Eye of Providence. And I won't go into what the meaning of the Eye of Providence is, but I will just show you. This is what Wikipedia says. Can be found on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States. And this is on the unfinished pyramid. Let's finish the pyramid. Eye of Providence. And we'll have a look at Eye of Providence is images. Okay. And there we go. That's the Eye of Providence. That is what it is. It looks like that. It looks like that. And you've got to ask yourself, does this pyramid model, which is exactly how it is working, does that look like anything like that? Okay. Does that look like anything like that? And then if you look at architecture here, this is the classic one from Venezia. Venezia. Except that's not a very good image of it. There we go. There we go. That's a very good image. Do you think that that is similar to that? Do you think? Is it possibly similar? Are we on the same ballpark? Okay. Yeah, it does explain turning his staff into a jelly snakes, and it would go hard again. You know, this sample of John Hutchison's was jelly at one point, like the jellyfication here, and then it's solid. This is solid. A bunch of samples here. That's my favourite one, twisted. Jellified staff, there we go. Okay, I'm going to see quick. Thank you for leaving a comment, creating awareness. The upper chamber corresponds to what I would consider to be the upper chamber of the Mandelbrot set. Okay, great. It'd be interesting to see how that links. I'd like to see that. Thank you. Yeah, the pyramid needs to be recapped. Well, it basically just needs, because the most of the limestone is porous and with lots of fairly large gaps. The point of the outside, in my opinion, was it was fine, non-porous limestone that had no gaps between it, and that made it a nice tight hydrogen seal. Okay, so I'm going to say thank you very much, guys. This was, if I can find it, this was O'Day Wormhole. And I believe we have verified the insight and clarified what's going on that was proposed in Dr. Takaaki Matsumoto's book in 2000 here, where he published this. That the electronuclear collapse happens in a wormhole. There we go. I'll get it there in a minute. In a wormhole. Goes to a point, but I need to discuss the fine points with him when I'm with him. But I think that's settled. This is not new. We cannot own this. It's staring us in the face. It is probably the biggest experiment that we can relatively easily get running again. This knocks ITER into touch and all nuclear reactors out there. This, in my view, is a just a water fuel powered resonant vacuum engineering coherent matter reactor, and a thing of great beauty. It's literally divine. It's literally divine. It is perfect in every way. Do not try and fix it. I mean, yes, if you want to have something that you can use as a tool, then you probably want to point them north when you get them running. And you probably, like I say, you probably want these tools like maybe fixed and you move things around them. But I don't know. You know, once they're running, they probably do what they need to do, because in the Lion reactor, they had these things in all kinds of orientations. And now I know what that bit at the bottom is. Those triangles. It's like that. Those particular triangles were stumping me because they just didn't look like they were part of the vortex structure. I just couldn't understand. But they are the point of disruption, in my view. Currently, I'm willing to be wrong. I may well be wrong, but this structure here, this kind of triangular structure. You know, wow. And you know, it's also it's like same type thing. But anyway, there we go. So thank you very much for your time, everyone. My name's Bob Greenier. This was Wormhole, and I think it's pretty much done. I'm really looking forward to seeing the first person. Play safe. This is vacuum engineering. You know, things can disappear if you don't do it right. Follow the plan precisely. Don't go, what happens if I make this a bit bigger? What happens if I do this? No. Just don't do it. If you're going to try and change it, don't do it, right? Follow the plan precisely. Follow the plan precisely. Thank you very much. Good night. Bye-bye.